Hello, welcome to the season 3 finale of Dr. G at the Heart of Healthcare. It is World Hospice and Palliative Care Day, and we have a special guest today. As you all know, I dedicated this season to Mama D, one of the 19 people who were tragically killed in the Eaton fire in Southern California in January of this year. And this is her granddaughter, Delise Kelly. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. G.
How have you been?
It's been rough. It's been a very rough year. I'm still trying to manage without my grandmother. That was my girl. She was 95. I was taking care of her, but she loved to live alone. And I miss her dearly, just our moments at the grocery store and drinking coffee at the corner bakery in Pasadena. Those are just times that I will cherish forever. And I thank the Most High that He gave me that last day um to be with my grandmother. Like, we spent the entire day together, and I dropped her off at 12:30, and that was it. That was the last time I've seen her, and I had no idea, and she had no idea that that was going to be it. That fire was looming, but she and I have a lot of regrets. I should have, like, not left her. When I found that the power went off, I should have turned around and went back to go get her, and but the fire was not close to her at all for it to have consumed them by like 4 or 5 a.m. I just couldn't believe it. So then after Mama D died, then my sister died. So if your audience didn't know, after my grandmother died in the fire, and the reason why I was rushing home, um at after I dropped my grandmother off, I had to relieve her caregiver because my sister had cancer at the same time. So I was kind of taking care of both of them and juggling both of them. And it was a difficult time. So my sister and my grandmother both died like a month apart, couple months apart. And then I just lost my brother on August 1st. And he was in a facility, a acute care facility, and I was trying to get him back home. But he was very difficult, a difficult patient. He was shot in his back by the police department when he was only 19 years old. And being a paraplegic had really taken its toll on him over the years. And so he was he had, like, he would hear voices, and I was nervous about taking care of him and bringing him back home. And first, my sister and I were supposed to do that together, and it would be easier if we had each other to help take care of him. But when she got sick, we had to pause that. So he was unfortunately living in an acute care facility and just died August 1st. So this has been like one of the roughest years of my life.
Hmm. Thank you for sharing that. I know this is difficult for you. Um, so let me go ahead and set up the World Hospice and Palliative Care Day. First, continuing to introduce Delise Kelly. She's a marketing specialist in Southern California, and does a lot of great work in the community. And so, as she has as her title, four-time caregiver, which we know in this country we are in a serious caregiver crisis. There's millions upon millions, I should have had that number handy, of unpaid family caregivers in crisis needing to take care of their loved ones, and we need to do better about it. But today we're going to focus on World Hospice and Palliative Care Day. I want to share the theme. The theme for 2025 is Achieving the Promise, Universal Access to Palliative Care. And the theme builds on last year's campaign, where we marked 10 years since the World Health Assembly, the World Health Organization governing body. And so that's why we're here today. We want to talk about the access. We're going to walk through Delisa's experience and see how that's going. This is a real life story. When I invited Delise to the podcast, I asked if she, felt ready to share her story, and this is what she shared. She gave me permission. So this is about her sister. Remind me of how old she was, and let's speak her name.
Ebony Williams. She was talented and beautiful and creative, and she was only 44 years old. I'm gonna try not to get emotional. I thought I was ready. I'm gonna be ready. Let me get strong. But she was only 44 years old, y'all.
Okay. And Elise said, I'm bitter about it because she died. I feel like the hospitals gave up and put my sister on hospice too soon. But as far as it taking burdens off of us, not having to drag her to the ER, bringing medications and specialists to the house, it was a relief for all of us. I was sent a nebulizer without explanation, and when she was dying, I had to sit there and watch. Lots of pain still. For my mom, it was extremely helpful with hospice, and our RN and CNA made life easier. They came with the care team, and I never felt alone. I was in Texas. There I felt hospice was more caring and hands-on. And for me as a California hospice physician, I that's heartbreaking to hear from a citizen. Knowing that hospice agencies are not created equally. In California, we do have a lot. There's been a lot of growth in the number of hospices, but not necessarily the quality is the same. And so through us sharing today, I hope the listeners, you can, hear what's going on. I hope people learn. Number one, I want to say consumers, you should have a choice of your hospice agency so you have time to vet them. It didn't happen in this story. And you should, be able to make sure that you're ready and you've had a goals of care conversation with the hospital team or palliative care team to know where things are going so that it's clear, so that things can go a little bit better. And I mean that. So let's just go ahead into the story. So Delise has experienced a lot of death in her family in this year. She already set up, and we say rest in peace to them. And so we're just going to talk about Ebony Williams. She was on hospice for 2 weeks. So talk to us, Delise, like what you want to share about um, her diagnosis, you know, if you were able to have palliative care involved, and how that process went for you as a consumer.
Yeah. Well, Ebony was there was a tumor that she a heart tumor she kept feeling on her, like by her spine, and she was seeing a doctor who then um I, they had her see a nurse practitioner that became the person she interacted with. And unfortunately that person was very unqualified in my opinion, and I wish that I would have done a better job, helping my sister go to her appointments and being an advocate. um and so that's why it's very important what you do on this show as an advocate. And um so we didn't become an advocate until too late, where she needed, someone other than this nurse practitioner guiding her, where, I have friends and associates that are physicians, and um, I should have been consulting with them about the care and the diagnosis and things that she was been given. But then they had her go see some type of neurological surgeon, and he was going to remove the tumor, but then she didn't feel very comfortable with that, because of his reviews and things that she was learning about him. So she would go back into she had another appointment, and the nurse practitioner said, well, you have to see him, you have to go to him. And then there was insurance issues. And so now she couldn't like raise her arm without it being painful. So now it's kind of like moving in a direction where it's more serious than just, okay, I've got this tumor growth in my back. Now it's like you can tell it's maybe spreading to her lip nodes and things. So finally, a lot of back and forth. This happened, I would definitely say, about a year. Finally, like after a year, she went to go see another neurological surgeon, who then told her she need to go see a cancer doctor. And then the nurse practitioner uh, had an appointment with a cancer doctor. So bottom line is, she was finally told that this is cancer. Um, she went and did a biopsy to figure out what kind of cancer. They told us it was a skin cancer. And so with that diagnosis, a week later, she did a biopsy a week later. Now we have her back in the emergency room because they said it spread to her lungs. Now she's on oxygen, and we're going back and forth again, trying to get her into the City of Hope. Meanwhile, the Queen of the Valley Hospital is giving her, she's starting immunotherapy treatment. She just began to get weaker and weaker and weaker, where she can't get up out of her bed. She's like, oh my God, y'all, I think I'm going to need a hospital bed. So we're everything's kind of going downhill rapidly. We're still fighting with, she had LA Care, but even though LA Care is sort of like a Medi-Cal, she had to have straight Medi-Cal to get to City of Hope. It was so many red tapes and so much, if I could say, BS that we had to go through. The delay just made the situation worse. She just got weaker and weaker, to the point where, we're back and forth appointments, stressed out, medications. We're going back and forth to the pharmacy. And then now we could tell she had some type of urinary tract infection. The infection had then transferred to her blood. And ultimately, when she went to the emergency room, she was diagnosed with sepsis, because of the infection got into her blood. And at that point, they did scans. They said, hey, your sister is dying. And I couldn't believe they would even say that in front of her, because she was coherent, even though she was altered. With the sepsis. They said she's dying. Her cancer is gone here, there. It's everywhere pretty much. And we would like to just, send you all home with antibiotics and connect you all with a hospice company. And that's pretty much it. And I said, well, no, I would like for her to stay and get rid of the sepsis. And I remember the lady who was helping me as her IHSS caregiver say, surely you won't send a lady home with hospice full of infection. And they said, yes, we will, with antibiotics. And so they, she stayed the night. They gave her some IVs, sent her home the next day. And at that point, they called hospice. We had a hospice. We didn't have a choice. We were just, at that point, we were in crisis mode. We just took the first hospice company that came to our home. They did the assessment, got our medications all set up, start sending equipment, had another bed. They had someone else come, swap out a bed and swap out the oxygen equipment we already had. It's just, they oversend too many products. And I mean, I still have boxes of stuff that, medical supplies, we're overwhelmed. And so the saddest thing that I would like to share with your audience is that I was sent, there was medical equipment that was sent, and I was kind of, her nighttime caregiver, unpaid, but we had a daytime caregiver while I was trying to continue my job and work. But there was a nebulizer, and when she became unable to breathe, and I watched her die, because I'm on the phone with them saying, hey, something is going wrong. My sister can't breathe. She's saying, turn up the oxygen. But I could remember people telling me, don't turn up the oxygen too high, that could, cause problems. And so I didn't know what to do. And I'm panicking. I'm on the phone with hospice, and they're like, we're going to send someone. But I live in Pomona, and they sent someone from Ventura County, and Friday night traffic. It was February 14th, Valentine's Day, and they have this man on the way from Ventura, and he's trying to guide me, trying to tell me to find the nebulizer. And I'm like, what is the nebulizer? What does it look like? Where is it? And I, talking to her caregiver, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where it was. And I just, unfortunately, my sister began to get, she was unresponsive, and she stopped breathing, and he never made it in time, and I couldn't find the nebulizer. Of course, I found it after she passed. So there was no training on how to use the equipment, and this is what you use for this. It was just like, all the stuff that was being sent. And unfortunately, at 44, my sister passed. And Dr. G, I am just still very traumatized, and
That is very, let's take a breath, that is very traumatizing, this is really hard to hear, because I know that it's not supposed to go this way. And sounds like there was just challenges, there's so many fat things we're dealing with here, the caregiver distress, the caregiver working a full-time job while caring for family, being the able-bodied person, as you mentioned, and then, having to deal with the healthcare system and the delays and diagnosis and authorizations and all this finally happening. And then I think what I'm missing here is, or what was missed is, a goals of care conversation. Even though your sister was having sepsis secondary to a UTI, the goals of care conversation, that's about family choice. So any clinicians listening here, again, even though things are evident to us, we need to make sure that we are in alignment with the family and their understanding of what's happening. One heartbreaking thing that I heard when you shared this with me while we were preparing is that you were told, this is delaying the inevitable. There's nothing we can do. And that must be so tough to hear. Even if, people have alternative means of healthcare, to hear healthcare providers say to you, there's nothing we can do, when there's always something we can absolutely do. And that should be discussed with you. And so
it's
it's
like they gave
heartbreaking.
up on her because she had sepsis, but they saw the cancer. They gave up. They decided to send her home and give her antibiotics instead of keeping her there and help to get rid of the sepsis, so that she could live, for us to try to fight the cancer. Where that's not true. You're right. And that's where my mind was, is that, okay, Ebony, I know what he just said in front of you, that you're dying and there's nothing that they can do. And it's like, it's like treating one thing, but the cancer is still going to take her out of here. And we can't fight the cancer. The cancer is taking over. So, why fight the sepsis? That's pretty much what the emergency room doctor told me. And they plan to keep her that night, because I was advocating for that. At least give her some IV antibiotics and let her stay the night. And that was what they should have done. If it took a 1 week or 2 weeks, get rid of the sepsis, because other doctors that I'm following says that cancer, mainly, it's not the cancer that will take people out. It's the sepsis and other things that can come with the cancer. And that's ultimately what happened. But they shouldn't have given up on her. As far as the sepsis, and the antibiotics that they sent us home with never worked. It just seemed like 1 week she went through a bottle of the antibiotics, and that didn't work. It just seems like now she's seeing people. And I'm thinking that's just a side effect of the sepsis, where she's altered. Because when that morning, when she woke up and we had to rush her to the emergency room, even down to the ER, the 911 people, the firefighters that come, they were very rough with her. So that was like, she never wanted to call them either, because they were not tender, and they were just the way they got her down the stairs. It's just like, it was such a failure. on all of the parts, but I do hear what you say. Like, if you have a family member that has been diagnosed with cancer, understand that it could go very wrong, and we should have vetted out a proper hospice agency, even if it was premature, but just to have that, like, hey, call this person. And I should have called you, Dr. E, but I just didn't want to accept the fact that my sister was dying. So of course I didn't want to call hospice, because I'm like, she's not going to die. I'm thinking with faith, my sister's going to live. I'm listening to all these alternative, holistic practitioners that are saying, hey, this person survived taking this and that. And so my mindset was on my sister living, and it didn't, I just didn't, even when she was seeing people who weren't here, there was like, who is that? They're going upstairs. Who's on the patio? She's like saying that when people are dying, they start seeing either other people
Yeah.
on the other
Sounds like
side.
terminal delirium.
That's that, something was that, but I thought it was the sepsis the entire time until she woke up on February 14th and and began to get frantic, and I didn't know what to do. We have to be trained. You cannot just give us a whole bunch of equipment and expect people who, like myself, I'm a marketer. I have no idea. I never took a medical class in my life. I can't even look at blood. So it was very difficult, like where she had to use the number 2 on, and I had to like put the gloves on, and it became a whole thing, like, oh God, I gotta go, guys. And I'm like, oh, let's go, and it was just a very traumatic experience. And I just don't feel like you feel like, okay, here's all this equipment, you guys figure it out, your sister's dying. And it was like, I didn't have any like formal training, and it's just as unfortunate. And I think that they could have better prepared me and her.
Yes.
And she's
I
gone.
I agree. So for listeners, it's the responsibility of the hospice agency to educate the family caregiver. Um, they all get a survey. We talked about that in another podcast. It's called the Family Caregiver Survey. And it talks about, did you feel like were treated with respect? Do you feel like symptoms were managed? Those basic questions that are a part of this. That's why Medicare makes it a part of that, because that's what's important. And it sounds like there was no palliative care involvement earlier, in her process. And that could have also helped. That would have been your layer of support. Well, that's supposed to be a family's layer of support throughout the process. I really don't want this to come across to the listeners or to you that, we are doing this, you know, you know, hindsight 2020 thing to add to any regret or remorse or to complicate the grief and the pain that you're already experiencing, because this is traumatic. And so, Delise was so gracious. She wanted to share her story because she wanted to help the next person, and that's the ultimate, you know sign of a loving person, like to want to, even though she's here, tearful, she wants to help someone, so the next person doesn't have that experience. And so um our I'll let you have the last word, but just sounds like, we had staffing issues, we had equipment issues, and um this is the last part where you were on the phone and they told you not to call 911. You can't call 911, in
Yeah.
quotes.
Once they're
That
on hospice.
that's troubling also. I have,
Especially when you have an attorney, you have your nurse coming all the way from Ventura County on a Friday. I needed medical assistance. She needed medical assistance. And I thought that I couldn't, they told me, once you're on hospice, that's it. You can't go to the doctor. If they find out, you call 911, or you end up in the hospital or something, that you can be terminated from hospice.
and that's not, the verbiage is all wrong. So listeners, just so I can clarify, I have recommended to my nurse, hospice nurse, they need to go to the hospital because we had a goals of care conversation about something. And it's something that was outside the scope of hospice care. And individuals have the right to revoke their hospice benefit to the agency and go to the hospital. It's not jail. It's not you get terminated. All the power is with the patient and family of utilizing this care. And so if you choose to revoke your hospice services for aggressive um,
An
treatments like
emergency.
the
Yeah.
sepsis, then that
Yeah.
was okay. And so,
I wish I'd have
um,
known that.
yeah. So the people will know this forever.
Yeah.
This is memorialized here. And so our valuable resource for today is an article from Hospice News. The new American Academy of Hospice and Palliative Medicine CEO is ensuring widespread access to hospice and palliative care. And his name is Pierre M. Desi. And I'm going to put that in the show notes, because and then everyone, you can learn more about some of the things that are being done to make sure that patients and families have a better experience at the end of life, because when we're facing diagnoses and things of that nature, we can't control that, but we can provide better care upstream in the hospital with palliative care teams, and also making sure that families have the choice of the best quality agencies in their area. So I'm also going to put a link to that podcast we created, How to Find the Best Hospice Agency. So if you're in the United States, you can follow the demo to help you vet an agency. Because if you have limited time and the hospital gives you a list, you need to be able to narrow them down to the best so that you have the best possible experience with your family. Because ideally, and I've seen many of them, hope it doesn't sound weird, but beautiful hospice care experience, because it's not about us, it's about the family, and it's about the love that you all have for that person. We're just there providing the health care in your home. It's never about us. And so we are just there to facilitate a loving transition of that person to the other side. And so it is my hope, Delise, that you can continue to navigate this grieving process. Your grandmother, your sister, your brother, and I know you're caring for someone now who just got a heart transplant. So I just hope that you can continue to walk this road and feel healed from this, from the trauma of it. And I'll leave you with the
I
last
need that
words on
peace.
this World Hospice and Palliative Care Day.
You guys get the resources that are being provided to you by Dr. G. Definitely advocate for your loved one, and I'm just trying to get at peace with this. People tell me once you make peace with it, maybe it'll be better. I don't know, but she was only 44, my sister. So it's I don't know if I'll ever be at peace with it, but I will get there one way or the other. But definitely, y'all, if you're listening, definitely get your resources. If you have a family member that has a terminal condition that may not even be terminal at that point, just find the hospice company, vet that out, because once they're just given to you and you're just thrown into hospice, just prepare. And I just avoided it. I didn't think my sister was going to die, so I waited to the last minute, and I advise everyone not to do that. Get your resources together, get your affairs in order, just in case you are put in this situation where you know that you'll be in good hands with the right hospice company. And like you said, the palliative care team, we didn't have that. So that's what I would advise. But thank you so much for the opportunity and having me today and allowing you to share my story with the world.
Thank you, Delise. All right, everyone. We're so grateful to be able to support the family and provide resources. And I hope everyone learns something from this. And so we are signing out on season 3 on this World Hospice Palliative Care Day. Thank you, Delise. Peace,
Thank you,
everyone.
Dr. G.